Hi there. Let's look at some things that somebody might have confused you on. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay. Somebody told me that Matthew 7 was condemning works-based heretics. Notice how the context here is the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is interpreting the commandments, the law of Moses, teaching humans how to be human. He says, judge not that you be not judged, for what judgment you judge, you will be judged. So what is he talking about? Is he saying don't use discernment? No, he's saying don't judge people in such a way where you're a hypocrite. In other words, convincing yourself that other people are bad when you're guilty of the same thing, only worse. Let me remove the speck from your eye, but look, there's a plank in your own eye. You're a hypocrite. So don't go around judging people for things you're guilty of, lest you be found a hypocrite. And we know what Jesus says about hypocrites. So you have to put the care of other people before you, not just trying to make them look bad so you look good when you're really a hypocrite. He says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, what inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruit. And by the way, people will try to make this is just about the false teachers. Why is this deceptive? Well, if you know bad teachers by their fruit, do you know good teachers by their fruit then? Because if they have bad fruit, then they're a bad teacher. So what would that say if someone doesn't have bad fruit? Does that not a principle that would then extend to any circumstance? If you can know the bad teacher by their fruit, then you would know a good teacher by their fruit. What qualifies as a teacher? What? Only the teachers have bad fruit? You either have good fruit or bad fruit. If you know one person by their fruit, you know people by their fruit. And also, this is not necessarily judging. It's not saying don't ever judge anything. That would be a denial of discernment. So these false teachers are ravenous wolves. They're false prophets. But then he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord. Now consider this. He's teaching an interpretation of the law of Moses. He says the false teachers have bad fruit. What is their bad fruit? It's the product of their lives. It's how they treat people. It's what they do and do not do. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. You know where else he says this? Well, we'll look there in a second. But notice, Jesus characterized them as practicing lawlessness. That's how Jesus characterizes these people. He doesn't characterize them as works-based salvationists or as people who are under the law. He characterizes them as being lawless. That's why he doesn't know them. They have the fruit of lawlessness. Notice this. Same book, same author. Notice, afterward, the other virgins who don't have enough oil in their lamps. Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answers and says, assuredly, I say to you, I never knew. Oh, wait. Says, I do not know you. Notice how that parallels with Matthew 7. People will say, well, I never knew you. So there were people that were never saved. Well, here it says, I do not know you. Not that I never knew you, but that I do not know you, present tense. How are you going to couple that with Matthew 7, saying it said, I never knew you? So he's really teaching against lordship salvation, people who think you can lose your salvation or some nonsense like that. No, he says, so why didn't he say, I never knew you? What can we put together from those two teachings from Matthew? Something to think about. Might help inform your interpretation. Many have a bad interpretation of Matthew 7, very common. You know what else Jesus said right before this? Matthew 24. He's talking about being offended and people hating and betraying each other, and many false prophets will deceive many. And because lawlessness abounds, the love of many will grow cold. Think there might be a connection with love and the law? False prophets will rise up and deceive many, and because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Think there's a connection there? I do. He who says he abides in him ought to walk as he walked. Truly the love of God is perfected. Whoever keeps his word, his law, his word, same thing. Truly the love of God is perfected in him. By this we know that we are in him. He who says he abides in him ought to also walk as he walked. That's John writing. If you love me, keep my commandments. He who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. And he who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. Notice, bears much fruit. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them in the fire, and they are burned. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Now, are you noticing a connection between abiding, love, commandments, and the necessity of having that love? You have to abide in Jesus. If you don't, you'll be cast out and burned. If you keep my commandments, you abide in my love. Interesting. If you love me, keep my commandments, that he may abide with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world can't receive. What does he say again in Matthew 24? Because lawlessness abounds, the love of many grows cold. Let's look at this other verse here. We know that Judas is called the son of perdition. He was in the inner group of Christ, and he betrayed Christ. The mystery of lawlessness is already at work. The lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. So the Antichrist, who makes people worship the beast, is the man of lawlessness. Because of lawlessness abounding, the love of many will wax cold. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you keep my commandments, you abide in my love. Abide in me, and I will abide in you, and my Father will abide in you. Notice the strong delusion that God sends, which is by the man of lawlessness, according to the working of Satan, who exalts himself in the place of God, wants to be worshipped like God, who with that spirit causes the lawless man of lawlessness to make people worship the beast and not God. And then God allows this deception to happen. It even says God sends it through the Antichrist. That's what it says. This man comes with lying wonders by the working of Satan. What is the spirit of Satan? He wants to be worshipped in place of God. He comes with the power of Satan, which God allows, even says he sends this strong delusion. Why? To prove these people for who they are, that they would believe a lie and they will be condemned. Why? Because they didn't believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. What is righteousness? Seeing the connection yet? And they overcame them by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down to you having great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. The woman was given to this. The woman is the bride of Christ. It's the people of God that God will have as an eternal inheritance for the Son. Revelation 12 is the story of the plan of salvation through history. The woman is the people of God in the Old Covenant, and this is giving the picture of Satan being cast down because of salvation being purchased by Christ on the cross, who was the one the dragon tried to devour. When the woman who is the woman? The woman is God's people. God's people bring forth the Messiah. So is the woman Mary in this symbolism of Revelation 12? Is it Israel? Is it the church? The answer to those three questions is yes, it is Mary. Yes, it is Israel. Yes, it is the church. It is the bride of Christ. Mary was an Israelite. Mary was a believer in the Messiah. Mary is the one who gives birth to Jesus. The symbolism here is the people of God, God's covenant people, those who connect themselves to God through his provision. It's not any one of those in particular. It's all of them. It's the story of the bride being purchased for the Son for an eternal inheritance. The woman is Mary. The woman is Israel. The woman is the church. The woman is anyone who's married to the Son. Get it? The answer is yes to all of those. Is it one of them in particular and not the others? No, it's all of them. What's the point? The point is it's a love story. And the sovereign God will have a bride for the Son. And it's not just one individual person. It's humans who connect themselves to God through the marriage, quote unquote. So the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth. He persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. This is talking about the story of Jesus being born amongst the covenant people. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. That is the bride. This is a historical picture of the people of God. and she was given 2 wings. The devil tried to snuff her out, just like he tried to snuff out the woman when she was giving birth to the male child, but he failed, right? That played out historically as Herod, under the workings of Satan, trying to kill the innocents. But he failed, and the son was born, and he was taken up into heaven. But the woman now is fleeing after the birth of the Messiah and the assumption of Jesus into heaven. And she found 2 wings that she might fly to the wilderness to her place, where she's nourished for a time, times, and half a time. That's the 1260 years that the beast was given power. But she was given respite from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, because he knows that his time is short. He's after the bride. And he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, the seed of Abraham, who have joined themselves to Christ. It's not Israel. It's not the church. It's not Mary. It's the bride. It's the woman. The one waiting and watching in the night, has enough oil in her lamp, waiting for the bridegroom to return. And again, like the ones who are not let in the door are characterized by Jesus as being lawless, because the love of many has waxed cold, but he who endures to the end will be saved. The devil's after this woman. Why? Because of her testimony, which is Christ, and who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. That's what characterizes the saints. The lost, who aren't let in the door, who say, Lord, Lord, are characterized as lawless. They don't have the love of the Father in them. They're not abiding in his love. If you love me, keep my commandments. And the one that the devil's after is the woman, the bride, those who have joined themselves to Christ, because they keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. Who gets thrown into the lake of fire? Those who worship the beast and his image and receive the mark of his name. But here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. They're not characterized as lawless. They are not lacking the love of Christ. They are not characterized as lawless. They're characterized as having the testimony of Jesus, and they keep the commandments of God because they have the love of the Father in them. Jesus tells the Pharisees, let's look at that. I don't receive the testimony from man, but I say these things that you might be saved. You have never heard his voice at any time, nor have seen his form. You do not have his word abiding in you, because the one he sent, you don't believe. I do not receive honor from men, but I know you, that you do not have the love of God in you. They don't have the love of God. What's the love of God? I have come in my Father's name. That is, I have the love of the Father. You don't recognize me because you don't have the love of the Father in you, so you don't recognize me who comes in the name of my Father. If another comes in his own name, not the name of the Father, not the love of the Father, you'll receive him. Why? Because they receive honor from one another, from men, and do not seek the honor that comes from the only God. Think about that. You don't have his word abiding in you. You don't know the love of the Father, the name of the Father, which I come in. You receive honor from men and from one another. You want status. You want honor from men. You don't care about the honor that comes from God. What does that honor look like? Service, putting others before you, his commandments, his love, his word. But you don't receive it because you don't have the love of the Father in you. But you'll receive another one, a false one, that comes in his own name, not the love of the Father, not with the word of the Father, not in the honor that comes from the one true God, exemplified in me, who comes as a servant to lay down his life for others, not himself. One who comes depending on the Father and serving others, using my inherent power to serve others and not myself. And I suffer with humanity to show the love of God, the one who puts others first, not himself. But there's others that don't care about that. They like to get honor from one another. They want to up their status, but they don't care about what God is like. And I'm showing you what God is like, even laying down my life for filthy sinners that kill me, to show you the love of the Father. What God is really like.